Oh, yeah. It's the 525 Records podcast, back at it again. It's been a fucking minute. I have not done a podcast since October. But here we are, a rare solo episode from home. I just got a couple of things I want to talk about, and, I just want to get back in the mix, get a post popping in everybody's feed, because next week, I'm doing a very special podcast with a very special person. His name is Jared Richard. He's the frontman for the Verbs, the newest addition to the 525 Records family. That's him right here. He's a cool dude. He's a good dude. The band rocks. They got some shows coming up. If you're in the NorCal area, May 5th, Pacifica, Sunnyvale on June 9th, and Campbell, California on August 4th. So they don't play many shows. When they do, it's a special event. So if you're in that area, check it out. Who knows? Maybe I'll even make it up for one of those motherfuckers. But next week, he's coming to Vegas. And we're doing a podcast, and I can't wait. It's going to be a full fucking deal. I have not gone 5 months without doing a podcast since I started doing this podcast, which is hilarious because when I started, I was like, I got to have 3 episodes in the can before I even put one out so I can, never miss an episode. That was fucking 4 years ago or 3 years ago. But it's really hard, man. They say the number one rule in podcasting is consistently putting out content on the same time, same day. And if you can't do that, then it's just an uphill battle. And that's where I'm at. 5 months. The longest I've ever gone without doing a 525 Records podcast. So I just wanted to get a rare solo episode out there and tell everybody that next week we're doing a real deal podcast. We're talking 3 cameras. We're going to the studio. It's going to be amazing and awesome, and the one and only Jared Richard is going to be episode number 25. This is episode number 24, and so episode 25 is going to be Jared Richard of the Verbs. We're going to talk about everything and anything. I mean, this guy was homeless at one point, and he wrote a book all about it. I'll save it for the podcast. You get the idea. Yeah, so this is Motley Crue live in Moscow, and I'd never seen this before, and it blew me away. I don't know, I was looking for live Crue videos a while back, and I've been on a Metallica kick like the entire month. If you don't know, Russia was fully communist at this point. This is 1989, Motley Crue live in Moscow, the Moscow Music Peace Festival, 1989. But you never think about, wow, that was a year before Monsters of Rock. And if you don't remember, in 1991, Monsters of Rock hit Moscow. It was AC/DC, Metallica, Black Crowes. Pantera kicked off the set with an insane fucking set list. The thing about this is that the audio quality is fan-fucking-tastic. I'm just gonna play a little bit and then we'll talk about it, but this is 14 days after they installed the new government. They pulled off this festival. Like, I don't know how the fuck they even did this, and I don't know what's more impressive, right? There's a coup in 91 in Moscow, or not a coup, a failed coup that led to Boris Yeltsin, and it was basically well, I'll just play it and then we'll talk about it. Just hope this doesn't give me copyright strike. AC/DC usually will get you a copyright strike.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back.
So this is they had a local Russian band play, and they fucking killed it. I mean, I can't imagine anybody following Pantera, let alone the Black Crowes. I forget the name of these guys, but they're like a local Moscow Russian band. So they called in the Russian military and police, and they beat the shit out of these fucking kids. This is a free concert, dude. This is like way bigger than Woodstock, you know. And the thing about the '89, dude, like in '89, this was bold. This was billed as the Woodstock Moscow. You know, it was pretty good. You know, they had a lot of people, but nothing compared. 14 days after they installed a new fucking government with Boris Yeltsin, somehow they aligned all these fucking huge names to go play this fucking Russian airfield in Moscow. And so the, you know, it's just everything was in chaos and disorganized. Nobody knew. And so they, you know, they had the Russian military and police trying to like keep everything down. And they beat the shit out of these fucking kids, but nobody died, which is unbelievable. I mean, this has to be the most legendary concert ever. Way bigger than Woodstock.
Close down the show.
They'll fuck up completely if they close the show down.
Where's Believe Pietro?
They're right over there. Just talk to them.
The militia is overreacting, so we just hope that they keep it under control.
I have no idea what to expect. I'm just going to keep playing and duck and hope we come out.
I'm not sure about this. Out here looks like kind of a war zone, you know. I hope that it doesn't get too out of control. After all, it's beef appreciation of the kids, and so, you know, I don't want that to go too far as the soldiers not knowing what to do and security and things like that. I think that could get really ugly, and I don't want to see that happen.
Never right. It's never any good. But considering that this is Moscow, I'm actually pretty amazed that that's all that's happened so far.
Ситуация на концерте вышла из-под контроля. Если это будет продолжаться, мы будем вынуждены прекратить концерт. Если вы хотите увидеть выступление других артистов,
This is after Pantera.
успокойтесь и прекратите все волнения. Тогда вы сможете насладиться концертом.
I mean, what about it? It's peace, man. It means, like, don't beat on each other with sticks while you're out there.
I mean, how the fuck are the Black Crowes even on this bill? And what, like, can you imagine being the Black Crowes having to follow Pantera? Like, that would never happen in America in a million fucking years. And yet here you are in Moscow, 1991. I mean, Black Crow. It's just Black Crowes, peace, love, hippies, bare feet, smoking pot. What a contradiction! What a juxtaposition! And again, you just have to hand it to the fucking organizers and the promoters. How the fuck did they pull this off? 14 days. But you know what? I mean, they fucking definitely, you know, calm the crowd down. Look at Steve Gorman here. Look at that. Look at this fucking hair. Look at this fucking hair. Steve Gorman, if you don't know, got a great book. Put it out a couple years ago. Kind of a Black Crowes memoir. That he's been estranged from the band. I mean, everybody's gone now except for Chris and Rich. That is Jeff Cease right there. He's the original guitar player for the Black Crowes. This is before Mark Ford. It had to be one of his last gigs. Mark Ford would come in. They would do Southern Harmony. You know, Mark Ford, an angel of a guitar player. One of the best guitar players in the world. Long, you know, he's quite an interesting dude. He's become quite religious in his later years. He's on tour right now. You could probably go see him at your local bar at some point. You know, just keep your ear to the grind. I'm sure he's out playing, you know, tiny little clubs, tiny little bars in various outfits and bands and as solo. But this is Jeff Cease. Everybody forgets about Jeff Cease. He was the original Shake Your Moneymaker guitar player. And yeah, it's just crazy to see him in this. Look at this fucking kid. I mean, my God. You think today's fucking American kids? This is 1991, dude. Look at this Russian kid. He's all fucking tatted up. Looks like Tekashi 6ix9ine. I mean, look at these fucking eyes, dude. You want to fuck with this kid? No. I mean, just fucking incredible, dude. You know, it just makes it puts it all in perspective. But the best part about this is all the like backstage stuff.
Was the night before the show, me and Kirk went down to the tent city down where the coup is going on. They were still like holding all these rituals and stuff like that. We were talking to some of the guys there that were actually the real people that were instrumental in averting the coup thing.
Look at Lars wearing a Dead Kennedy's fucking shirt. Look at that. California Uber Alice. Fucking Lars wearing a fucking Dead Kennedy shirt. I love this. This is a great soundbite right here because it's true about me.
You know, I start records, I don't finish them.
I fucking start records. I don't finish them.
You know, I start records, I don't finish them.
It smells like liquor in here.
Smells like liquor in here.
People that were instrumental in averting the coup thing.
Why did his brothers get killed? Why? What was the situation that developed into that?
Почему так получилось, что
Значит, напряженная
it was on the hardest night, on the rainiest night.
высадка спецназа КГБ,
It was the
группа
21st
Альфа.
of August, because the special troops of KGB were expected here.
Everybody here was defending this building?
People were standing in lines from 11 till 6 in the morning. Well, naturally, they were afraid.
Все пришли сюда умирать.
But
У всех было
mostly
ощущение,
people
что
came here to die. They want freedom, they crave for it. They were ready to meet their death.
Don't give me a copyright strike. So that's the story behind Monsters of Rock, right? Like, 30 years since Moscow's Monster of Rock, remembering Russia's biggest ever rock festival featuring Metallica's all-time greatest performance and miraculously 0 fatalities. September 28, 1991, the Tushino Airfield in Moscow hosted the Monsters of Rock International Music Festival. AC/DC, Metallica, the Black Crowes, and Pantera all performed, while the metal band Electroshock Therapy represented the Soviet Union. The event attracted a crowd of more than 500,000 people. Now that's a low ball. The official estimates are like 1.6 to 2 million. Definitely over 1 million people, for sure. In the documentary For Those About to Rock, Monsters in Moscow, which is what we were watching, released a year after the festival on VHS, Pantera's 30-minute set is half fights, jostling crowds, and clashes between leather jacket-clad youths and men in uniform. To avoid injuries and deaths, producers from Time Warner were prepared to take extreme measures and even stop the show. The situation is out of control. If you want to see other groups perform, calm down. In any case, by 4 or 5 o'clock, music wasn't the issue. Violence was. I saw no less than a dozen bleeding people, a couple of policemen among them. I saw police cruelly beating up kids with or without a reason. I saw a rain of empty glass bottles thrown at police lines from the audience. I saw soldiers kicking a guy lying on the ground with their monstrous boots. There's actually footage of that in the documentary. And then you put the fucking Black Crowes in there. The Black Crowes, an American blues rock group, initially defused the tense situation, and then the Moscow-based anarcho metal group Electroshock Therapy sang the first Russian songs of the evening. So I mean, just imagine Pantera, a bunch of fights, everybody's bleeding, cops are beating the shit out of people. Then the Black Crowes go on. Can you imagine how hard that is, like, for the Black Crowes? I can't even fucking imagine. But it worked. It calmed everybody down. Kind of like Woodstock 99, man. Who went on and calmed everybody down? I forgot. Anyway, but look, this is AC/DC. They had a whole lot of Rosie. Oh, they're canceled. They're fucking canceled. By the time Metallica took the stage, the Clashes had mostly petered out. No one wanted to miss the main act, not the Punks or the Police, who it turns out were also big fans. Which brings me to this. This is a much better audio version, and it's something I've been listening to a lot lately. I don't know why. I've just been on a Metallica kick, but somebody in 2021 remixed and remastered this footage from the concerts and uploaded it, and it's in 720p at 60 FPS, and it's just a much better, higher quality version, you know. The quality of this is so much better than the original. I mean, they did a fan-fucking-tastic job remastering this, and it's amazing. And then right at the end here, it gets really good.
And considerable finance from the Time Warner Corporation. The crowd was estimated to be anything
fucking Time Warner,
600,000 and 1 million strong.
We've been stuck here at the airport for the last 2 hours waiting for our visas. So we'll see what happens. But so far the airport's really nice.
Heavy metal crowd.
This guy was instrumental in the in putting on this festival. I don't know how you say it, Troitsky, but yeah, we're gonna go through the Wikipedias and talk about it. But yeah, this guy was the man.
It's very big, but also, you know, it's very restricted. I mean, it's like a cult.
When we went out there, the crowd was so into it, and they were so up for seeing us. It was great. It was like, you know, playing a regular, you know, western country.
They wanted Metallica, they wanted AC/DC for what they had done in their jobs and averting the coup and all that. So I think today really has opened up for us to come in.
Metallica talk blood and gore, and AC/DC let there be rock on the block. Well, Metallica performed at last weekend's record-breaking metal festival in
This is great.
Glasgow, but their performance could have ground to an early halt when drummer Lars Ulrich cut his hand early in the set.
Well, this is what happened to it. In Harvester of Sorrow, which is like the third track in, we stop for about 30 seconds in it, and James does this thing where he gets the kids kind of going. Well, either I thought it was a lot shorter tonight, or James did a lot shorter, one of the two, you figure it out. But I was like standing up when James did the cue, and I had to hit the snare drum while I was standing up, leaning over the drum kit to make the cue, and I just bashed my hand right into the snare drum, between the stick and the snare drum, like pure Spinal Tap vibe, and just the blood was like just gushing out. I mean, I've hit myself a couple times over the last couple of years, and there's been, you know, cuts and bruises, but I mean, this is still bleeding. I can feel it bleeding inside there now, and just like...
I can feel it bleeding inside there.
The cymbals, the whole snare skin, like everything was just gushing, like for the whole rest of the gig. So
thanks for sharing that with us, Lars.
Let's try to find that. It's Harvester of Sorrow. Straight up Office Space. You know, the thing about Jason Newsted that everybody fucking overlooks is his contribution in terms of backup vocals, and you can really hear it on Harvester. Like he could sing, dude, and he sang a lot of backup in Metallica. and it was such a nice touch. It really added another element to Metallica that was not there before, and it never gets enough credit, man. Jason Newsted's backup vocals do not get enough fucking credit. Just some boomer rock. I mean, you know, guys my age, if you're my age, if you're over 40, you can really appreciate this. I was 14 when this happened. I remember watching this on VHS. Alright, here comes the break. This is when Lars fucking chops his finger off. So he's standing up. Now he's standing up. Boom, finger off. Yeah, you can see why Lars was like not expecting that. I mean, I think they usually hold it a lot longer, you know, in their other concerts. But anyway, Metallica Live in Moscow 1991, 2021 remixed and remastered. It sounds so fucking good. It's just amazing. I mean, I can't even fucking describe it. But so 1991, right? They have a attempt of a Soviet coup, and I'm probably butchering this history, but I think the way it goes is like this. You got Gorbachev, right? He gets elected in 85. You remember he had the thing on his forehead. So Gorbachev is trying to do glasnost and perestroika, and there's a lot of Soviet hardliners that don't like these economic changes. So Gorbachev's in power. You got basically the KGB, like everybody that's in the KGB, they try to overthrow Gorbachev, but it fails because the people come out in the streets and they actually block tunnels and they stand in front of the White House, and they actually try to attack the White House. Is actually like just like we have a White House in America, the Russian Parliament building apparently is also called the White House. So can't make that shit up. So apparently all these people come out and they prevent it, and they put Yeltsin in, and Yeltsin does a new government, and then a month fucking later this concert happens. How the fuck did they pull that off? I mean, you got to give it to them, you know. Just a different era, you know. Just like 30 years ago. This is 32 fucking years ago. 30 years before that, you could never imagine. Rock and roll wasn't even around. You couldn't imagine this. What's going to happen 30 years from now? You know, given the today's climate, you know, today's state of everything, you know, Russia's back to being the bad guy. It's like the Cold War all over again. It just reminds me of being a kid in the 80s, you know, when you were going to get nuked at any second. But so the 1991 Soviet coup d'etat, also known as the August coup, was a failed attempt by hardliners of the Soviet Union's Communist Party to forcibly seize control of the country from Mikhail Gorbachev, who was Soviet president and General Secretary of the Communist Party at the time. The coup leaders consisted of top military and civilian officials, including, I can't pronounce any of these fucking names, blah, 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 blah. So the GKCHP hardliners, that's the coup, the people trying to do the coup, dispatched KGB agents who detained Gorbachev at his holiday estate, but failed to detain the recently elected president of a newly reconstituted Russia, Boris Yeltsin, who had been both an ally and a critic of Gorbachev. So interesting. Since assuming power as General Secretary of Communist Party of the Soviet Union in 1985, Gorbachev had embarked on an ambitious reform program embodied in the twin concepts of perestroika and glasnost, or economic political restructuring and openness. These moves prompted resistance and suspicion on the part of hardline members of, I can't pronounce that. And yeah, so basically that's what happened. Russia declared its sovereignty on 12th June 1990 and thereafter limited the application of Soviet laws, in particular those governing finance and the economy, on Russian territory. So, 12th of June 1990, what the fuck? You got Motley Crue in the Moscow Music Peace Festival, 1989, August of 89. That's crazy. How the fuck did they do that? The coup was the last gasp of those who were astonished and felt betrayed by the precipitous collapse of the Soviet Union's empire in Eastern Europe and the swift destruction of the Warsaw Pact. Many fear the consequences of Gorbachev's German policies above all, not just for leaving officers unemployed, but for sacrificing gains achieved in the Great Patriotic War to the German. It goes on and on. So I'm not going to read this whole thing. But you have this interesting coup chronology, right? 19th of August, 1 a.m., this is the vice president, signed documents in the formation of the State Committee for the State of Emergency. That's the GKCHP, consisting of himself, Pavlov, a bunch of other dudes. 6 a.m., KGB immediately issued an arrest list that included newly elected Russian president, SFSR, Soviet Former State Republic, I forget what that stands for, but Boris Yeltsin, he's the guy that's going to get in there, that the kids, put in or whatever, that's the real coup. It's really two coups, right? It's a failed coup that results in an actual coup that puts Boris Yeltsin in. This is interesting. The coup conspirators considered detaining Yeltsin upon his return from a visit from Kazakhstan on 17th of August, but failed when Yeltsin redirected his flight to a different airport. Afterwards, they considered capturing him at his dacha. I guess that's like a house near Moscow. The KGB Alpha Group surrounded his dacha with Spetsnaz, but for undisclosed reasons did not apprehend him. Interesting. After the announcement of the coup at 6:30 a.m., Yeltsin began inviting prominent Russian officials to his dacha. Yeltsin initially wanted to remain at the dacha and organize a rival government, but Kobets advised his group to travel to the White House, that's the Russian parliament building, to maintain communications with coup opponents. That's fascinating. They arrived and occupied the building at 9 a.m. Together, Yeltsin issued a declaration to the citizens of Russia that condemned the coup's actions as a reactionary anti-constitutional coup. The military was urged not to take part in the coup, and local authorities were asked to follow the laws. Although he initially avoided the measure to avoid sparking a civil war, Yeltsin also subsequently took command of all Soviet military and security forces in the RSFSR. The joint declaration called for a general strike with the demand of Gorbachev to adjust the people. The declaration was distributed around Moscow. This is just fucking fascinating shit. It's fascinating to think that a month after this fucking happens, AC/DC, Metallica, the Black Crowes, how the fuck did they pull this off? And how the fuck, what's even more impressive is how did they pull this off in 1989 with almost the same bands? I mean, Skid Row, Motley Crue, Bon Jovi headlined this fucking festival. I mean, incredible. Just fucking incredible. I mean, yeah, no Soviet nuclear weapons. I mean, this is like high stakes shit here. So, 21 of August, at about 1 a.m., not far from the White House, trolley buses and street cleaning machines were used to barricade a tunnel against arriving Taman Guards, infantry fighting vehicles, commanded by Sergei. This is the KGB dude, I'm imagining. So, basically, the KGB, they try to go in, they try to attack and take control of the White House, but all these people come out and they're like, no, fuck you, we're not letting you do it. And then it lasts all night. And according to journalist and democracy campaigner Sergei something, who was in the crowd defending the White House, those deaths played... Oh, so apparently some people died. 3 men were killed in the ensuing clash. Dmitry Komar, Vladimir Yusov, and Ilya something. Several others were wounded. Komar, a 22-year-old Soviet-Afghan war veteran, was shot and crushed trying to cover a moving IFV's observation. Yusuf, a 37-year-old economist, was killed by a stray bullet while coming to Komar's aid. The crowd set fire to an IFV, And Khrushchevsky, a 20-year-old architect, was shot dead as the troops pulled back. According to journalist and democracy campaigner who was in the crowd defending the White House, those deaths played a crucial role. Both sides were so horrified that it brought a halt to everything. Alpha Group did not move to the White House as planned, and Yazov, that's I think the vice president, one of those guys, ordered the troops to pull out of Moscow. Reports also surfaced that Gorbachev had been placed under house arrest in Crimea. Interesting. So at 8 a.m., the troops began to leave Moscow. Between 8 and 9, coup members met in the defense arena on 1 p.m. Yeah, this is just fascinating. I just can't believe that they fucking... Oh yeah, 23rd of August. Pugo and his wife committed suicide on 23rd of August. Some real Hitler bunker shit. So... yeah, fucking fascinating. It's just fucking fascinating that they're able to pull this concert off less than a month after this. Anyway, so then, you get Yeltsin. Oh, this is great. So Five Eyes is an intelligence alliance consisting of the United States and its core Anglosphere founded during World War II that quickly shifted focus to the Eastern Bloc as the Cold War began. During the Cold War, the five nations were inexorably linked. Although Australia and New Zealand were not NATO members, they were allied to the U.S. and UK. New Zealand steered more. So they all put out these statements. This is fascinating because you get to see, like, history reflects, where everybody was in this. So in the U.S., during his vacation in Walker's Point Estate in Kennebunkport, U.S. President George H.W. Bush, that's the elder Bush, the real fucking evil dude, made a blunt demand for Gorbachev's restoration to power and said the United States did not accept the legitimacy of the self-proclaimed new Soviet government. Bush rushed to the White House from his vacation home. Oh, poor Bush. Receiving a letter from somebody aboard Air Force One, he then issued a strongly worded statement that followed a day of consultations with other Western Alliance leaders amid a concerted effort to squeeze the new Soviet leadership by freezing economic aid programs. Bush decried the coup. So what is the coup? The coup is not this. So what are you calling a coup, right? So you have Gorbachev, you have the KGB trying to overthrow Gorbachev. That's the official coup. In the process of that, a bunch of fucking civilians come out and defend the White House, and then they call that the coup. You can't fucking make this up. Bush decried the coup as a misguided and illegitimate effort that bypassed both Soviet law and the will of the Soviet peoples, gaslighting to the fucking nth degree. He called the overthrow very disturbing and put a hold on U.S. aid to the Soviet Union until the coup was ended. The Bush statement, drafted after a series of meetings with top aides, was much more forceful than the president's initial reaction that morning in May, and it was in keeping with a Western effort to apply both diplomatic and economic pressure on the Soviet officials seeking to gain control of the country. On 2 of September, the United States re-recognized the independence of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. See, all these other former Soviet states, in the wake of this, whatever you want to call it, coup number 2, they all proclaim their independence, and it's all going down. So James Baker issued a statement warning, "The whole world is watching. Legitimacy in 1991 flows not from the barrel of a gun, but from the will of the people. History cannot be reversed. Sooner or later, your effort will fail." The coup also led several members of Congress, Richard Lugar, became concerned with security, Soviet weapons of mass destruction, nuclear proliferation, blah, blah, blah. And former President Ronald Reagan said, "I can't believe that the Soviet people will allow a reversal in the progress that they have recently made towards economic and political freedom. Based on my extensive meetings and conversations with him, I am convinced that President Gorbachev had the best interests of the Soviet people in mind. I've always felt that his opposition came from the communist bureaucracy, and I can only hope that enough progress was made that a movement toward democracy will be unstoppable." Well, what is democracy? Like, when you really break down the etymology of it, it basically means mob rule, right? Majority rule. I can't get over fucking history, man. It's so fucking wild, dude. It's so wild that this fucking shit happened a month later. Like, how the fuck Time Warner threw fucking millions of dollars and a bunch of fucking money into this thing and got everybody there. It's just unfucking real that happened. This is great. Jason Newsted reveals the truth about Metallica's concert in Russia in 1991. In 1991, there was a coup attempt in Russia initiated by communists towards the government of Mikhail Gorbachev. Around that time, Moscow got included in the worldwide festival called Monsters of Rock, despite the political tension in the country. The concert was a huge event and hosted 1.6 million rock music fans who attended the event to watch the legendary bands for free. For free. Among those bands were AC/DC, Metallica, Black Rose, Pantera, which created a rock and roll feast. Jason Newsted remembered this event, started to tell the story of how they got included in the festival, which is fucking amazing. Here's how Newsted told the story about being asked to perform the coup. Quote, I don't know if you know the story. People have heard it before probably a few times. I've told it a few times. But we were in the Eastern Bloc touring with AC/DC at the time. There were still a lot of communist nations that hadn't been switched over. And the coup starts happening in Russia. And word comes out. And there's kind of mumblings amongst managers and stuff like that. And things like they're going to go play this big show somewhere. So we got a message from Prime Minister representative from Russia or something. Got through to our management. And they had talked to the kids that stood up to the tanks. Mind you, Tiananmen Square, I mean, democracy, freedom, and the American government is like decrying it and opposed to it. Fuck, history's a fucking bitch, isn't it? The leaders of the resistance, what would you like for a reward for saving us all? We want American rock and roll. We want Guns N' Roses. We want Metallica. Yeah, GNR ain't going to Moscow. That's for fucking sure. Not in 91. Yeah, that's incredible. Here's how he talked about the memorable plane they got in. Time Warner gets behind the whole thing. That's key. They see a giant opportunity to make world history, which it has now become. So they send this plane for us. Black Rose, AC/DC, Metallica. We're all together playing some shows. I think they were like Monsters of Rock label shows or something. And this plane shows up, and man, we could fit this room inside part of it. Couches, the full fucking deal, man. I've never seen anything like it. We've been on a couple of nice planes, but this was insane, really, because it was a big ass plane, a proper big plane where you stand up and walk around. Hey, way to go, Time Warner. No expenses spared. He later expressed how he felt about the atmosphere of the concert. Jason stated how stunned he was by the crowd that was there since 10 in the morning for rock and roll. He talked about the 1992 film For Those About to Rock, Monsters in Moscow, that's what we're watching, which is the completion of the concert footage made into a film. He confessed that he watched it more than he watched the Metallica. I guess there's a movie called Metallica. I haven't seen it, but he described his feelings by saying the graininess in the black and white, somewhat sepia film, they had their fresh ears, all these people building up to this thing, and there's only a few 100,000 across the field at that time, a mere 250,000 at 10 in the morning. A lot of people that are in the morning, perfect for these guys. The way the film came off, the way Dime, come on, dude, untouchable. It's filmed with the masks and the thing. So he's talking about Pantera there. Which, you know, in addition to being the best Metallica performance ever recorded, and also, you know, just the highest quality live Metallica.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. You just do whatever the fuck you want, huh?
If you're old as me, you'll remember living through this. Like, the Soviet Union fell, the wall came down. It was like us and Russia, we're going to be best buds forever. And fast forward 30 years, it's the fucking Cold War all over again. But it really brings into perspective this Motley Crue show. You know, Motley Crue, Skid Row, Bon Jovi, 1989. How did they fucking do this? So this is the Moscow Music Peace Festival. The Moscow Music Peace Festival was a rock concert that took place in the USSR August 12th to 13th, 1989 at Central Lenin Stadium in Moscow, occurring during the Glasnost era. Glasnost is a concept relating to openness and transparency. It has several general and specific meanings, including a policy of maximum openness in the activities of state institutions and freedom of information. This is what the KGB wanted to fight, right? This is what they wanted to overthrow. The freedom of information and the inadmissibility of hushing up problems. My God, history, what a bitch. It marked the first time hard rock and heavy metal acts from abroad were granted permission to perform in the capital city. Over 100,000 people attended. It was broadcast live to 59 nations, including MTV. It also raised money to help those addicted to drugs and alcohol. Oh, that's generous of them. Addicted to drugs and alcohol. The concert featured 6 bands from abroad and 3 Russian bands. The concert ended with the various band members participating in a jam session. An album and documentary were released. It inspired the 1990 song Winds of Change by the Scorpions, one of the best-selling singles of all times. Modeled as a Russian Woodstock, the concert was a joint production by Russian musician Stas Naman and American music manager Doc McGee. Doc McGee is an American music manager best known for working with hard rock bands Kiss, Bon Jovi, and Motley Crue. So, yeah. So you got Skid Row doing a Sex Pistols cover. Gorky Park, Cinderella, Motley Crue, Ozzy, the Scorpions, Bon Jovi fucking headlining. Can you imagine Bon Jovi fucking headlining this? Doc McGee, man, what a legend, dude. This guy was a fucking legend. I think he's still alive. He might be dead. I don't know. Yeah, Doc McGee is, I guess that means he's still alive, a music manager best known for working with hard rock bands Kiss, Bon Jovi, and Motley Crue. The latter two groups experienced their rise to stardom under his management. He's also worked with Hootie and the Blowfish. What the fuck? He was in a reality series for VH1 called Supergroup. And, yeah. In 1989, McGee joined with Russian musician and promoter Stas Naman to create the Moscow Music Peace Festival, which brought together hard rock and metal bands from the United States, Europe, and Russia to benefit programs to help drug addicts. Get the fuck out of here. Over 100,000 people attended. It was broadcast in 59 countries. Interesting. So, little known about Doc McGee. In November of '82, McGee was arrested for contributing to the import of 20 tons. 20 tons. What is 1 ton? A ton is like 2,000 pounds. So, if 1 ton is 2,000 pounds, 10 tons is 20,000 pounds. 20 tons would be 40,000 pounds. 40,000 pounds of marijuana into North Carolina via a shrimp boat. The 21-count indictment said that McGee and the smugglers had the intent to distribute the marijuana. I mean, what else are you going to do with 40,000 pounds of marijuana that you're bringing in? Of course you're going to distribute it. McGee would have to serve 30 years in jail and be fined for something that's legal now. Would have to serve 30 years in jail and be fined $140,000. That was a lot of money back then. But the possession with intent to sell charge was changed. Identified as a link between U.S. smugglers and Colombian drug suppliers, McGee pleaded guilty and was ordered to spend $250,000 and 3,000 hours dedicated to his Make a Difference Foundation, a nonprofit aimed at deterring youth drug use. Oh, you just can't make this shit up. So, a music promoter who in 1982 tries to smuggle 40,000 pounds of marijuana on a shrimp boat now starts a non-profit foundation aimed at deterring youth drug use, and a lot of the profits of the Moscow Peace Festival were raised to benefit programs to help drug addicts. Interesting, isn't it? Fascinating. So Motley Crue 82 to 89, Bon Jovi 84 to 91, GNR a 1-year stint, Kiss 95 to present, Skid Row 88 to present, Hootie and the Blowfish. Why the fuck is Doc McGee managing those guys? Night Ranger, Crooked X, TNT. I mean, you know, the list goes on. Yeah. The Moscow Music Peace Festival. I had never fucking heard of this thing, and being a huge Monsters of Rock fan, I'm like, how the fuck did they do this in 1989? It's fucking incredible. What the fuck happened? I mean, how did it go from that to this? We are back in the fucking Cold War. But, I mean, just keep it about the music. A killer set.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back.
All right, so thank you for taking a trip down memory lane. I just wanted to put a podcast out to get back on everybody's feeds and let you know there's going to be a big one coming up with my man Jared Richard next week. And also, I got to say, the Smokes played a show at Al's Den, I don't know, about a month ago. They're playing another one April 7th, 2023, at Al's Den in Portland. So be sure to check that out if you're in the area. The last show they played, which we didn't know, we thought it might be their last. Some members are moving out of Portland, and any one of these shows could be their last. So just check it out if you're up there. April 7th is when I'll be doing the Jared Richard podcast. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it up for this, but if you're in Portland, check out the Smokes at Al's Den, April 7th. $10, can't beat it. It was a packed house last time, and we got an amazing recording out of it, which I'm going to leave you with as I play out this episode. So thank you for listening to the 525 Records podcast. Stay tuned next week for a brand new, actual, real podcast episode with Jared Richard from the Verbs. And yeah, go see the Smokes at Al's Den. And I'll leave you with this. It's a live recording from their last show, and it's called Kill Somebody, dedicated to the great John Rasmussen. Enjoy the 525 Records podcast.
This one's for you, Johnny.
This one's for you, Johnny.
Gonna kill somebody. Gonna kill somebody. Gonna kill somebody if I don't get what I want. Gonna kill somebody. Gonna kill somebody. Gonna kill somebody if I don't get what I want. You better give me what I want.
Got the tour with a lot of people in there.